Number 5 on this list is the unicorn goat. Mental Floss writes, Dr. Charles Reed, distinguished professor of radiology at the University of Pennsylvania, held the x-ray up for the gathered reporters to see. It was quite clear, he told them, that the horn of the creature in the radiograph was part of the skull. It was not an implant or an artificial addition. The members of the press turned their attention to Lancelot, the docile animal that looked remarkably like a goat and who likely contributed to the room smelling like a petting zoo. He stood 2 feet 6 inches tall, not including the large protrusion erupting from the middle of his forehead. The reporters were told they could pull on the horn to see for themselves. It didn't come off. As they tugged, Lancelot munched on some rose petals. Despite the controversy his presence had created among animal rights groups during his visit to New York in April 1985, he seemed to suffer no crisis of identity. Another professor, Dr. William Donawick, declared him content, healthy, and in case there was doubt, living. Lancelot had just been validated. He was a content, healthy, living unicorn. That's right, guys, there has literally been a unicorn before. Now, obviously when we think of unicorns, we think of rainbows and magical abilities. Our main guy Lancelot here did not have those capabilities, but he was a happy and healthy goat with a massive horn coming from his head. Scientists have no idea why it happened to Lancelot, but basically the 2 horns that he should have had merged into one massive horn on top. What caused this? What are some signs that it's gonna happen? How to prevent it? Or how to even cause it if you want it to happen are things that scientists have yet to figure out. Number 4 on this list is 2-headed cows. Now, 2-headed things, or mutations of sorts, do happen. They're extremely rare and in a lot of cases fatal, but they aren't impossible. In the example I'm gonna show you now, we have exactly that. A 2-headed cow mutation. But I want you to look at the picture and comment down below what you think the animal actually is. Here's the pic. Okay, so now that you've had a good look at it, there are clearly 2 heads, and also it kind of looks like a pig. I think that that's the weirdest thing about this, is that the 2-headed cow mutation in this instance looked way more like a pig than it looked like a cow. This calf was born to a cow, but it looks like a pig. Veterinarians and scientists studied this animal that came out of Russia and were pretty stumped. One potential explanation was crossbreeding, meaning that a pig and a cow got it on, and this was the scary result. Although apparently based on the story and how the animals were kept, that would have been an impossibility, or at least very unlikely. Sadly, the creature died right after being born and could not be studied while it was alive. This is definitely a freak thing of nature though, and something that scientists are gonna have to do a lot of research into explaining. Number 3 on this list is giant squids. Now, here's the thing. Giant squids can for the most part be explained. There's squids that are really giant, and they're just doing squid things. So simple. The thing is, we really don't know a lot about them and where they might have come from, what creatures they evolved from, or their tendencies. Tina Don Vito says, this huge animal could be the mythical Kraken featured in Pirates of the Caribbean and Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Although it's unlikely that the giant squid actually attacked ships, very little is known about this mysterious creature of the deep. It wasn't even photographed alive until 2004 and not filmed until several years later, when it was caught at the surface. Underwater video was not accomplished until 2012. Scientists have learned virtually nothing about the lives of these deep sea giants, not even how big they get, although some estimates predict they grow up to 66 feet. Only their cousin, the colossal squid, might be bigger in weight, although probably not length, but even less is known about them. Now I want to circle back to what was written there about how we don't know if it attacked ships or not, because that's important. Back in the day, ships were 100% attacked by giant squid-like creatures. This is where the legend of the Kraken came from. But if we think it's unlikely that these giant squids ever did that, then does that mean that we can confirm there is in fact a Kraken? Scientists currently cannot explain why these creatures would ever attack a ship, because from the limited amount that we've studied them, that doesn't seem to be in their nature. If we can't explain that, then we also can't explain why these ships were attacked in the first place, which ultimately leaves the legend open for a Kraken. I always thought that we kind of locked it in that the legend of the Kraken was based off of a giant squid, but after realizing how little we actually know about them, I think that the door is still open on what actually used to attack those old ships in the first place. Number 2 on this list is winged cats. Our little feline friends, as we currently know them, are pretty much all land dwellers. They certainly have a pretty sizable leap, but our standard kitty doesn't have any way to maintain their flight and therefore will come back to Earth pretty quickly. However, winged cats is something that's been talked about for a long time and may have even existed at one point. Ripley says, winged cats are a popular motif across art and literature, from Renaissance art to children's book series Cat Wings. Their reoccurring appearance leaves us to wonder, could winged cats really exist? Ripley's Believe It or Not is no stranger to the vast world of animal anomalies. These winged cats, however, make no appearance in our collection. Barring early history where cats across millennia have been depicted with wings in mythology, the modern sightings of cats with wings can be traced back at least 100 years. One of the earliest known mentions of a winged cat is from Henry David Thoreau, who described a winged cat at a farmhouse in 1842. According to Thoreau, the cat had long hairy appendages sprouting from its body, but that they fell off in the spring and were kept by the writer in his private collection for a time. So maybe Henry did have a cat with wings at his home back in the day. However, that begs the question, why did those wings fall off in the spring? Because that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Well, in all honesty, nobody knows. No one knows if these things that were sprouting from this cat were wings or not. No one knows that if all of these pieces of art and references to winged cats is actually substantiated by something, or if it's just a form of artistic expression. Can you imagine how cool a winged kitty would be though, guys? Cats are already pretty freaking awesome, but if they could also fly around, that would make for a pretty elite pet. Also, side note, but are you guys a dog person or a cat person? Let me know in the comments down below. And finally, number 1 on this list is the skunk ape. The skunk ape is an unexplained urban legend that is located in and around Florida. It's believed that this area is home to a type of Bigfoot creature, and that creature is called the skunk ape. There's been countless sightings of this massive creature before, and the local lore is pretty extensive. Dave Shealy is an expert on the creature and has seen it a few times. The first time he saw it, he says, "It was walking across the swamp and my brother spotted it first, but I couldn't see it over the grass. I wasn't tall enough. My brother picked me up and I saw it about 100 yards away. We were just kids, but we'd heard about it and knew for sure what we were looking at. It looked like a man, but completely covered with hair." The clip I'm about to show is actually from Dave Shealy, where he got real up close to one of these creatures and actually caught it on camera. So as you can see, this doesn't look like anything we're familiar with today. It's like a bear, but it's also like an ape, but its hair looks too long to be a conventional ape, so I have no idea what the heck it is. Maybe one day we'll be able to capture one of these creatures and scientists can finally understand what type of beast we're actually dealing with. Number 5 on this list is the Michigan Dogman. The Michigan Dogman is a scary urban legend of a creature from, yeah, you guessed it, Michigan. It is a massive 7-foot tall beast that stands on 2 legs and looks a bit like a canine, however it's got the torso of a man. One thing that's very notable about this fearsome creature is its extremely loud human scream that it lets out before it's coming to strike. The first sighting of it was back in 1887, and since then there's been many more sightings, all in different regions of Michigan. What's interesting about this creature though is that you won't need to worry about running into it for at least a few more years. I can guarantee that you don't want to be walking around the forest and having this thing appear in front of you, but the good thing is that you don't need to worry about that until 2027. It's believed that this creature only appears in years that end with 7. During that year, it will be out and about in the forests of Michigan, hunting and preying on the victims that it finds. But whenever it isn't a year that ends in 7, it's in a deep slumber hidden somewhere in the state. If this thing was awake all the time, it very easily could be higher on this list because of how terrifying and deadly it can be. But because it's usually asleep, I'm not having it so high up. That being said though, still be careful if you're in a Michigan forest regardless of the year, because I can only imagine that accidentally waking this thing up would probably be very bad for everybody involved. Number 4 on this list is the Amazonian giant centipede. Centipedes are gross, guys. In fact, the only thing that might be grosser than a centipede is a millipede. The centipede that we're looking at today is a very real animal that isn't just gross, but it's flat out scary and dangerous. World Atlas says, the Peruvian giant yellow-legged centipede, or the Amazonian giant centipede, is one of the largest centipede species in the world. The creature is about 30 centimeters long and preys on a large variety of animals. Interestingly, the centipede's diet is based not only on other invertebrates, but it can also overpower and kill creatures larger than it in size like lizards, snakes, frogs, mice, bats, and sparrow-sized birds. The centipede's primary weapons for killing prey are a pair of modified legs. The centipede uses these legs to penetrate the body of the victim and inject a highly toxic venom into their bloodstream. The killer creature can even climb the ceilings of caves where they can hold and manipulate their prey like bats with only a few legs attached to the ceiling. A 4-year-old human child was reported to have been killed by the centipede venoms before. So not only can this scary arthropod kill people with its venom, but it's super difficult to fight. That's because it's extremely fast, guys. Having 100 legs means that you can move pretty quickly, and this thing definitely does. It can move up to 3 feet per second, which is really fast considering its size. Also, the nature of its body means that it can crawl into super small crevices that you might not see. The child who died from its venom actually happened to run into this thing in an empty soda can. The kid picked up the can not realizing what was inside, and then the centipede struck. Running into this thing in the forest, or honestly anywhere, would be really horrible. If you see an Amazonian giant centipede, then just walk the other direction. Number 3 on this list is the skinwalkers. Skinwalkers, as described by All That's Interesting, are animalistic humanoid creatures chronicled in the centuries-old folklore of various Native American tribes of the United States Southwest, most notably the Navajo, Pueblo, Apache, and Hopis people. It is one of many shape-shifting monsters from Native American legends. Skinwalkers are typically described with a beastly and deformed body, a marred, albeit humanoid face, and blazing orange-red eyes. But the origins of these creatures vary among tribal cultures. Some traditions say skinwalkers are powerful medicine men who succumb to the temptation of using their abilities for evil. Other traditions claim that the skinwalkers are the punitive form of any man, woman, or child who commits a deep sin. In any case, the myth of the skinwalkers is well known among indigenous communities. These Native American monsters are described as incredibly powerful and nearly immortal. They can only be killed with a bullet or knife dipped in white ash, a bit reminiscent of a shapeshifter from popular culture, the werewolf, and its weakness to silver bullets. Shape-shifting animal human beasts who are extremely difficult to kill and super athletic. These things are very dangerous and not a species that you want to mess with. Typically residing in the forested areas of northern United States and Canada, they often travel in groups, which just kind of adds to how absolutely dead you are if you do happen across some. Be very careful of the skinwalkers if you're trekking through some North American forests. Number 2 on this list is an electric eel. So you won't be finding an electric eel in any northern forests like Canada, where I live, which is honestly pretty good for me. But if you live in the Amazon and happen to be going through an Amazon forest, then it's very likely this creature will be in the rivers right next to you. Definitely do not go for a dip in those rivers though, because the electric eel might be waiting for you. World Atlas says a shocking danger lurks beneath the waters of Amazon River in Brazil. The electric eel is not a true eel, but actually a knife fish capable of delivering a massive electric shock to those who threaten it. 3 pairs of abdominal organs of the fish allow it to generate electricity enough to stun an adult human being. The eels use their electricity generating capacity to stun prey before consuming them. Fatal attacks on humans are rare, but not completely non-existent. A single jolt could stun a human being enough to cause the person to stop breathing and drown even in shallow water. Multiple shocks could definitely trigger respiratory failure in humans. In the past, there are cases where the fish have delivered shocks strong enough to kill horses and even stun an adult caiman. If this fish can literally kill a horse, then we don't stand a chance, folks. There also literally isn't anything you can do about this thing other than just get out of the water. Like, it might be able to shock you without even touching you, so you might not even know that you're in danger. These things are also super gross looking and just not appealing as an animal at all. Super cool that they have electrical abilities, but not super cool if they use those abilities on me or you. And number 1 on this list is the Cherokee Horned Serpent. This is another Native American legend similar to the Skinwalkers, but this one is arguably far more dangerous. Another name for the Cherokee Horned Serpent is Yuktana. The Yuktana was, as you might imagine, a legend that originated from the Cherokee tribe in western North Carolina. James Mooney, somebody who actually studied the Cherokee tribe, wrote about this beast in a book he published back in 1992. He wrote, "Those who know say that the Yuktana is a great snake as large around as a tree trunk with horns on its head and a bright blazing crest with a diamond upon its forehead and scales glittering like sparks of fire. The blazing diamond is called Yolonsoti, transparent, and he who can win it may become the greatest wonder worker of the tribe. Still, it is worth a man's life to attempt it, for whoever is seen by the Yuktana is so dazed by the bright light that he runs toward the snake instead of trying to escape. This diamond is so dazzling that it's going to draw you in, and it's very problematic. You are going to lose if you fight this creature. It is just so strong and so powerful that unless you're literally an Avenger, you're just simply not going to stand a chance. It's said that these beasts are born out of envy and jealousy and come from the underworld. Massive serpents with incredible powers that literally come from hell. These things might just be lurking around the forests near you, hugging onto a tree and waiting for somebody to come and try to take the diamond in their forehead. There are rumors that one warrior was actually able to defeat these beasts at some point, but that is honestly just a rumor and never been confirmed. Be very, very careful if you're walking around a North American forest by yourself, and if you see a diamond, just run. Number 5 on this list is the Chupacabra. The Chupacabra is one of the most famous urban legend beasts in the entire world. This creature is apparently very common in the Central Americas and was first spotted several decades ago in Puerto Rico. Wikipedia says, physical descriptions of the creature vary, with some describing it as more dog-like, while most others describe it as reptilian and alien-like. Some report it as being a heavy creature the size of a small bear, with a row of spines reaching from the neck to the base of the tail. So it's that one comment about it looking alien-like that really stands out to me and leads me to believe that it could be from space. These creatures are apparently very vampiric in nature and are often reported as killing the livestock of the locals. Goats are specifically on the menu and get targeted by these creatures a lot. This wouldn't be uncharacteristic alien behavior because think about how aliens respond to cows, another common livestock victim of these otherworldly creatures. Couldn't it be possible that the Chupacabra is from outer space and needs to eat these goats to survive? I think something interesting to note as well is the fact that it just kind of appeared in 1995. Before then, nobody had ever seen it or heard of it before. Maybe it came from outer space and crashed down on Earth in that year and it hasn't been able to leave since then. Considering this creature's tendencies, I truly don't think that this theory is that outlandish. Number 4 on this list is sky serpents. Sky serpents are part of a larger category of cryptids called atmospheric beasts. According to people who have seen these creatures before, they are living mammals or beasts that are made out of organic material, but they break all of the rules that we typically have for the animals that we regularly talk about, such as the ability for these animals to fly without having any wings. Sky serpents are defined by Cryptid Wiki as snakes or elongated serpentine dragons that appear to float or fly in the air. They typically move in an undulating fashion as if they are sea serpents of the air. They are not the same as ordinary flying dragons. Certain sky serpent sightings resemble brine shrimp because of the thin nature and thin arms, making it move or glide throughout the air because they manage to fly without wings, like most Asian dragons that have the ability to also fly. There's a few pictures that have surfaced about these sky serpents, but nothing that can unequivocally confirm their existence. The pictures that have come out though seem to show them as very large worm-like creatures that can pass through the sky. Artists' renditions of these beasts are a lot scarier though. A giant flying worm is bad enough, but the pictures that show these multi-headed dragon-looking creatures that seemingly swim through the air, that's a new tier of terrifying. I feel like these are probably just a made-up legend, but if there are some Ray Rayquaza looking things just chilling in the sky, then we could definitely be in for some trouble, guys. Number 3 on this list is Fenrir. Fenrir is a creature from Norse mythology that is extremely dangerous and very scary. It's basically a giant wolf that is actually a giant that you really don't want to pick a fight with. Viking Jewelry says Fenrir was the most famous of many wolves creatures mentioned in Norse mythology. He was the son of the god Loki and the giantess Angrboda. The gods of Asgard raised Fenrir in order to stop him from wreaking havoc across the 9 worlds, but he grew quickly and caused so much trouble that they decided to chain him up. The gods convinced Fenrir to let them chain him up by pretending that they were playing a game to see how strong he was. Fenrir easily broke every bond. Eventually, the gods had the dwarves make a special chain that was stronger than any known but appeared light. Fenrir was suspicious of this chain and demanded that one of the gods put his hand in his mouth while he was being chained as a sign of good faith. The god Tyr agreed to this even though he knew he would lose his hand. When Fenrir realized that he had been tricked, he did indeed take the hand of Tyr. Meanwhile, the gods chained him to a boulder and placed a sword in his jaws to keep them open. The resulting drool formed a foamy river called Expectation. The ominous name of the river Expectation appears to be a reference to Ragnarok, the end of the world in Norse mythology, when Fenrir will break from his chains and get his revenge. Fenrir is also said to be the father of Skoll and Heidi, other giant wolves that chase the sun and moon respectively. It's also said that when Ragnarok comes, they will finally catch their targets and devour them. So there we have it, guys. If we live long enough, then we might just get to see Fenrir break out of his chains and come and devour us all. Something nice to look forward to. No, but in all seriousness, we wouldn't stand a chance against this beast. I can't even begin to comprehend its size and the power that it has. With one swoop of its massive paw, the entire planet could just be wiped out. For all our sakes, it's a good thing that it's currently chained up, because if it was loose, because if it was to come to our planet, then the future would look very bleak. Number 2 on this list is atmospheric jellyfish. Atmospheric jellyfish are in the same category as the sky serpents that we talked about earlier. They are also classified as an atmospheric beast. They're thought to be massive jellyfish that float in the sky and can fly up through the atmosphere. The weirdest part about this, and what has these jellyfish higher on the list than our sky serpents, is that it's believed these jellyfish are also used as a UFO. That's right, guys, these are living creatures that are their own separate entity made up of organic matter, but they are also used as vessels for aliens to travel through space. Meaning that if you see an atmospheric jellyfish, then not only could that thing kill and eat you, but there are also probably tens of hundreds of other creatures inside the jellyfish that can do the same. Now, in all honesty, I don't really understand how the mode of transportation works here, or how this jellyfish can hold all of these additional people. I suppose we need to catch one to figure that out. But as ridiculous as all of this sounds, it actually piqued the interest of the scientific community. Since the mid-20th century, there have been hundreds of sightings of these atmospheric jellyfish, and scientists have been forced to investigate what could be behind this. Through these encounters, there have also been a lot of pictures that have been taken as well, and they're pretty good quality. One of the most notable is the Dutch flying jellyfish, a picture captured by Harry Penton in the Netherlands. As you can see, it looks like a UFO, but also like a jellyfish. And that's because people believe they are one and the same. Jellyfish are already kind of creepy animals, but giant ones that are flying through space carrying aliens on board, that's a whole nother level of creepy. And finally, number 1 on this list is Penanggalan. This creature is truly terrifying, and based on what it's capable of doing, it could be from space. Forgotten Realms Wiki says a Penanggalan had 2 forms. During the day, the Penanggalan appeared as a human female resembling its original form before undeath. At night, the Penanggalan returned to its lair and its head separated from its body, revealing a 3-foot-long tail. A Penanggalan's eyes glowed red in darkness. Now, what they don't describe there, and I think it's important to understand how creepy this thing is that the 3-foot-long tail it has is actually a bunch of intestines that are hanging from its head. This thing is vampiric in nature and goes around feasting on people with an affinity to those who are pregnant. They suck people completely dry of their blood as they're sleeping while they're in this floating head form. They're also very skilled fighters and will totally mess you up if you do happen to wake up while this is taking place. Now, there's currently no confirmed origin of these creatures, meaning that no one really knows where they came from. I think that space is a potential option here though, because they kind of remind me of the Thing from the horror movie of the same name. A gruesome creature that can disguise itself as a human, but truly just wants to kill and eat as many humans as possible. That same creature came from space, and I think that there's a lot of similarities between the two. This specific beast is typically found around Malaysia, so be very wary if you happen to find yourself around that country.